Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 20th day of October, Thursday. We got a big Thursday night game coming up tonight here on Amazon. I know a lot of people also watching the, Yankees and Astros. That was a good game. I watched the end of that yesterday. I thought maybe the Yankees may come back. Houston looks like their dugout or bullpen, excuse me. Bullpen seems to be really playing well. They've matched up well against the Yankees. This is turning into a little bit of a rivalry, but theme of the day shows under pressure. Some players, people, coaches, a lot of us in life, we actually do better under pressure if we take that energy and use it for a positive force. There's been studies done on this. There's a book called The Art of War when studies say that when you're pushed up against the wall, essentially you perform better. You people know the old adage is, on the test is tomorrow, so I'm going to concentrate like nobody's business and just knock it out tonight. I'm going to concentrate, and I've done that. When I've had pressure on me to make a bunch of high grades. I mean, like B's and C's on my final exams, particularly a French test. I needed a B plus, and I kind of just messed around all year, all semester, and there was a good chance that I was going to fail French 2 and not be able to walk with my class back in high school. Of course, my mom watches the program. She can vouch for this. The pressure was on me about as far as it could be. I sit down at a table, kind of like I am now, and I got there on a Friday afternoon as soon as school let out that day. After I talked to my French teacher, I went home and studied. From that second, I never even turned the TV on. From the second that I got home, I studied from that time. I got home at like 2:30 all the way to 10 o'clock at night. That was Friday. Same thing Saturday morning as soon as I wake up, all the way to Sunday, even into early Monday morning. And then I aced the test. I aced the exam. I done well under pressure. In sports, you get guys like Michael Jordan, a really good pressure player. You get a guy like a Kobe Bryant. He was facing those rape allegations. Some of his Eagle, Colorado, some of his best basketball under pressure. Tom Brady, we'll get to him in a minute. He's really good under pressure, 2-minute drives. You get other guys like Peyton Manning. They didn't do so well in the playoffs. They don't do so well under pressure. He finally learned how to deal with it. You get a Chris Webber under pressure. He's calling timeouts when they didn't have one in the NBA. Well, he did that in college, but he passed off the big shot in the NBA when he played with the Sacramento Kings and Mike Bibby taking the big shot. He could not do well. Greg Norman couldn't do well under pressure, having like a 15-stroke league, a major league at a lead at the what was it? I want to say it was at the Masters, and one of the biggest leads blown ever because the pressure was getting on. He's not a very good clutch player. Some of us fold under pressure and get nervous. Others focus in and actually play better, actually perform better. Lawyers are under pressure all the time when the courtroom, and they got to convince the jury when the odds are stacked against them. Others slow their words and they hit the table, right? But that is the name of this program tonight. There's a lot of teams and coaches under pressure. These guys possibly looking for places to live, putting their house up for sale. Bill Belichick was under pressure back in 2001. He was under pressure. He had his house. He told his wife, he said, you might want to start getting some ideas on what to do to sell the house. And then Tom Brady came along, got discovered, the 6th-round pick. But remember, Drew Bledsoe got hurt when the team went 0-2. But here's the first one. Tonight, the Saints are playing at Arizona. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is back. He's back. This is a home game for Arizona. They are 2-4. They look horrible against a bad defense in Seattle. At Seattle last week, DeAndre Hopkins. Now him being back, this is going to help. This is going to help Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's got a 98.6 quarterback rating, 45 touchdowns, 21 interceptions with DeAndre Hopkins. That is a fantastic number for the young quarterback there. But Cliff Kingsbury, he knows he's under pressure, even though that head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, he just signed an extension in the offseason. Remember, this team fired this owner, and he's the guy who signs the checks. He fired I think, who was it, Steve Wilks? I can't remember. Is it Joseph or Wilson? I think it was Steve Wilks. He fired their head coach after one season, and he okayed to trade away their first-round pick, Josh Rosen, quarterback, and take another quarterback after one season. So that's will happen. It happens in college all the time, by the way. I told you all, I think, yesterday that Auburn will fire Brian Hartson after 2 years. You know, they fired Gene Chizik after winning a national championship for 2 bad years. They feel like he had lightning in a bottle with Cam Newton, and of course they were right. And that is a lot of people. So people can kind of sense the environment. So I think that Arizona wins tonight. They're 2.5-point favorites, but they're under a lot of pressure right now. You know, they're under a lot of pressure. But this is one game. And plus, another reason why I think they would be under pressure is they're only one game out. They're only one game out of first place. They're 2-4, but everybody else is 3-3. The West, I mean, San Francisco lost. And they've got to play Kansas City this weekend with all their injuries on their defensive line. And Kyle Shanahan's under some pressure. I know they've had injuries but a lot. You can look at it if you're the owner and say, well, maybe we got a lot of injuries because of the offense that he runs, the physicality. Maybe he's not doing enough in the offseason conditioning. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in these ownerships' heads. So tonight, this is a big game. If they lose this primetime game at home, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if he's not the second coach fired. If they get blown out, and I don't even know, I guess it's going to be Andy Dalton. But if they get blown out by a team that's alternating quarterbacks tonight, and they've got this long weekend, don't be surprised if the owner just says, I think I'm going to fire Cliff Kingsbury. I think the team quit on it. That happened a few weeks ago with Matt Rule, right, Pickles? That happens a week ago, a couple of weeks ago with Matt Rule. The owner, Jeff Tepper, he's like, I felt like they quit. You know, they got blown out at home by 49ers. And he's like, I felt like they quit. And we knew that Matt Rule's on the hot seat. So I think Kingsbury is on that hot seat because, mind you guys, that the owner was irritated. Remember, this time last year, these guys were 7-0. They were 7-0 this time last year and fell off and finished third in their own division. They got to such a good start that they still didn't fall out of the playoffs completely, but they kind of teetered out. And that's been the thing going every year with this team, with this style of offense. You get guys like Rex Ryan. It's like, hey man, this style of offense, it starts off fast and it goes away in a whimper. It just falls apart. And I think mainly because they don't have a traditional running game. Over the past few weeks, they have experimented with doing some regular option, but that's going to get your quarterback blasted more often than not. You start doing a lot of old-fashioned regular option, not read option at the line of scrimmage. I'm talking about run option where you're running and you decide the option, the ball. So if that happens, yes. And then you've got a guy like Tyrann Mathieu. He's coming back. So I think the Saints will be ready, but I do think that this Arizona team will win. But if they lose, don't be surprised if you see a headline on your computer tomorrow, guys, that's saying that this team has fired Cliff Kingsbury and he's going back to college somewhere. Now, mind you, he was a controversial hire. The guy had was just fired from his alma mater, Texas Tech, where he went to school at, before he got this job. And plus, we're finding out that, and the owner sees this stuff, we're finding out that Kyler Murray can play. He can play. It's not going to be Murray that they're going to move off of. It's going to be Kingsbury. So that is he's under pressure. Under pressure, baby. Okay, I tell you, somebody else is under pressure to play is Mac Jones. There was a report today that Mike Reese, the ESPN reporter for the Patriots, is saying that sources saying that Jones could be back to play Monday against the Bears. He practiced with the first team offensive line. I don't know why it was wrote that way. I'm just telling you that's the way it was wrote in the article. But Mac Jones should be back, I think. Now, that's 3 weeks. He's young. He's very young. But you look at a guy like Mac Jones, got off to a really rough start. You want to blame it on Matt Patricia or whatnot. They brought in Brian Hoyer, who's 150 years old in football years, and playing like that. He's just the guy that Belichick is comfortable with and shows up early. But he gets hurt. And then we have this Bailey Zappi story, who, as a starter, goes undefeated. Now, you say, well, he came in late in that Green Bay game, and they almost won that game in overtime. But this guy, he is a 4th-round pick out of Western Kentucky. And I love what Sean Payton said about this. I think it was Monday on the Colin Cowherd show about Bill Belichick and his non-fear for making a move, that he don't care. His rule is different from everybody else's as far as, where a guy was drafted and who do you play. Do you play the guy who you paid the most money to? Listen to Sean Payton. This is funny.
Of procuring talent. Art of procuring talent. How you arrived here will have no bearing on how much you play. Now, we can say that, but teams double down on mistakes all the time in our league, and it's frustrating to watch, and you see it happening. Bill Belichick is just going to go by what he sees. I mean, and so not having had a chance to really evaluate Bailey Zappi other than in the green room and watching him, but if Bill feels like that player gives them the best chance to win, that's who's going to play. We spend so much time discussing.
Yeah. If Bill thinks he's going to give them the best chance to win, he's going to play. And I think he's got that attitude now. Quite frankly, Bill Belichick has had this attitude going back to when he walked out on the Jets. He's basically given a job. He didn't like the way he was given that job because he felt like he was forced to take that job without even interviewing. This is going back to 2000. Without even interviewing for the New England Patriots. He felt like that Bill Parcells and the owner there kind of worked behind the scenes and pushed him in that job and did not want him to even interview for the Patriot job. And I'm reading into what he said from his documentary called The Two Bills. Okay, I've watched it twice. And he's a lot like me. He doesn't like to be forced to do anything. He don't like to be manipulated to do anything. And the more he got on that treadmill and he thought about the way he was pushed into doing it, he just says, I'm quitting. I'm not going to take this job. And then the rest is history. The Patriots end up working out a trade, and he goes to the Patriots and wins all these Super Bowls. It's kind of like the Babe Ruth trade, except he kind of forced his way out. But Belichick, Mac Jones was a first-round pick last year, and he did do well. He did do well. I thought he was going to win Rookie of the Year. But this Bailey Zappi guy he's got a really high quarterback rating. Now, I did read that according to NFL.com, a deeper look at this is stating that this guy's actually, his numbers, Bailey Zappi's, he does got 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. His QBR is like 34.7, But they are 3-3 now. They play the Bears on Monday night. They play a team like the Bears on Monday night, and they should win that game with either quarterback because it's in Foxborough. They should win it with either quarterback. But all this being said, and the rumors about Mac Jones playing, this could be a total, the way Belichick is, it could be a total smokescreen, Pickles. It could be a total smokescreen. And really, he's going to have put Bailey Zappi in there just to throw the coaching staff off of the Bears. Even though I think the Bears' run defense, and the fact you got Damian Harris coming back, and you got Rondell, I think his name is Rondell Stevenson, the running back. The other running back had a huge game against the Cleveland Browns last week. I think they'll still be fine. But don't be surprised if Belichick doesn't put this guy, this 4th-round pick. Mind you, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. And now on top of that, he's taking over for a guy that had a $100 million contract. And and Belichick still found a way to convince, way back in 2001, Robert Kraft, 2001, 2002, to gamble with this guy they just won the Super Bowl with. It wasn't a fluke. Now, judging by this article, it's probably going to be Jones, but it's something worth talking about. A lot of narratives were going out there, and some of them were legit about this New England Patriots team. First of all, you got a guy named Matt Patricia, who has been a defensive coordinator his whole career, putting him as offensive coordinator. And then you had, before that, you had it split with Joe Judge, who was the special teams guy, who formerly got, the fired coach from the Giants. They brought him over there to do co-offensive coordinators. Now it looks like, from what I read and what I see, that Patricia's kind of taken over that role totally as the offensive coordinator. And according to this NFL.com, it's saying that Patricia has learned on the job and has made in-game adjustments with his protections and everything, and that offense is starting to flow freely, and that it was flowing freely with Mac before Jones gets hurt. But yeah, Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, Pickle says that's the guy's name. Yeah, so things start to get the flowing that way with Patricia. So if Jones wouldn't have got hurt, although he did have 3 interceptions in that game, that he'll be okay. Now this guy's got 1 pick, but we'll see. This is an interesting storyline. But you can't trust anything you read. When you got a guy like Belichick, who's got a well of a poker face, if Bailey Zappi starts Monday night and they win, from what we're hearing from Mac Jones might not come back until they lose. This could be another Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott situation. I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm going to tell you something real straight. And I know what ESPN and all these people say, and all the way Jones, the way that Jerry Jones was talking, I don't think he was trying to get the camera attention. And I think the fact that he turned 80 years old last Thursday, if Sunday night, if that Philadelphia team would, if they would have beat Philadelphia, if the Dallas Cowboys, who got within 3, if they would have beat Philadelphia, now the fact that they've got at home a Detroit team, what's his name? Cooper Rush completes that comeback. If he completes that comeback, Cooper Rush is the quarterback this week. He's just going to say, well, you know what? Dak we don't think he's ready. Coach, he's ready. The medical staff, he's not ready. Trust me. I think that Cooper Rush still plays this week. I really do. The guy's older. The same thing was put in with Steve Berline and Troy Aikman. And eventually Berline did lose, but they got to the playoffs and they got put out in 91. They later stayed with Aikman and won the Super Bowl. That is history. But in this case, when you got a guy like Dak Prescott, who was below 500 against playoff teams in his last 25 games, like 15 and 24 or something like that against playoff teams. And then you look the way that they played last year against teams like the Raiders and the 49ers, 2 big losses there. Not to mention that his first game back, the total blowout to the Denver Broncos, a lot of that was the way the coach, Keelan Moore, was calling the game. But also, it's just the way he was playing, and that's what Jones looking at. See, he was looking at that. So I think this is another reason why I think that this Patriot team has already been rolled off for the season. When you started getting injuries and Malcolm Butler, Mac Jones, and now they've won 2 straight, and they're probably going to win again. They're probably going to win again, and what's his name? J.C. Jackson, their big free agent cornerback that they lost, that they got a lot of criticism for. And I'm just going by what I'm reading, folks. J.C. Jackson's a L.A. Charger, right? Well, he was benched the other night because of performance issues. And then the Patriots, his replacement, this guy, Jack Jones, according to Pro Football Focus, is 4th in the NFL as the best corner. So Belichick was right about letting J.C. Jackson go. That's his specialty, the cornerback position. Him and Nick Saban both have a specialty in that. And they corrected their issues and maybe their protection issues with the offensive line, with the blocking position, with this Bailey Zappi guy. And we're going to find out whether what they really think of Zapp if he plays Monday night or if Mac Jones comes back Monday night. So supposedly Mac Jones good to go. But there's still a test. There's still a test. My guess is I think that they probably will, from what I'm reading, I think they're going to go with Jones. But I'm just telling you the indication that they very well may go with Zappi. And I wouldn't be one bit surprised, Pickles, if they did go with Zappi, because Belichick is he's a poker player, man. He's hard to get a read on. He is hard to get. He's one of those guys that I see something with that team and I'll think about it subconsciously, and then he'll make a move later. He had a player one time. This guy had a really bad attitude, and I can't remember his name, Pickles, but he was a defensive end. He was a really good player, but he had a really bad attitude, and he was kind of saying some smart stuff on camera. And I thought to myself, that really doesn't fit the mold of the Patriots. That does not fit the mold of Bill Belichick. I can't think of the guy's name. He was a big-time player out of Georgia. And later on, that was in the playoffs, right? The playoffs are usually January, February. Well, that very next year, guy makes it through training camp. He's on a contract year. They get just before, Pickles nails it, just before week 1. And Belichick trades him to the lowly Raiders, Pickles. Richard Seymour. And Seymour was so mad that he blew off the first game. He didn't show up to the first game. I read that he didn't show up to practice. He was so devastated. He probably was bummed out. He probably got hammered. He was just beside himself. But I thought to myself, yeah, that is not what, that doesn't fit the mold of what you see out of a Bill Belichick coach team. You fast forward 2 or 3 years later, they make this steal of a trade with they get Randy Moss for practically nothing for the Raiders. The Raiders gave up a whole lot from Randy Moss. And we know what happened. They set the records in 2007. And 2 years later, I want to say in 2009, a little bit of these, and I'm going to talk a little bit about diva receivers here in a minute. he started making some comments about practice and stuff. He started complaining about being fined for coming to practice late because it was snowing outside, even though Belichick warned everybody, we're going to have bad weather tomorrow. You might want to be in early. And he was late. And he complained about that. He ended up complaining about that. And it wasn't too much later that Dez Butt was cut on a bye week. He was cut during a bye week, and for a team that wanted him to play immediately. So he didn't get a bye week. That's Bill Belichick for you. That is Bill Belichick. That he's a guy that he has a certain way of doing things, and he's just not going to take an ounce of crap off anybody, including Robert Kraft. And I'm surprised he's lasted this long, but hey, he has, because he's an excellent coach, man. And I can't believe it. John Jones. So they're still in it. If you think about it, they're in last place, but they're tied with Miami. And then you go up the ladder there. The Jets are 4-2, and I just look, the Saints are up 7-0 over the Cardinals. Dalton finds, yeah. And there we go. Under pressure. So we're going to find out. I'm curious to see who's going to start for the Patriots. And I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this situation. And it may not be nothing. And the NFL.com may be right. And Mac Jones, who the wit got turned up on him just like that in New England. And I think that's how Belichick wants it to be. He does not, including Tom Brady, he never wanted anybody to get too familiar. He even got rid of Wes Welker at the end because he made some comments. He made some kind of comments about a foot fetish that Rex Ryan was saying or something of that nature. And it wasn't too long after that. And it ticked off Brady. And And Pickle says he wants pressure to be on Jones. Yeah, he does not want anybody to feel entitled. He does not want anybody mailing in. Now, Mac Jones is a pretty intense guy, but he did get off to a really rough start. Do you want to blame Patricia? I would probably blame Patricia. But Belichick sees everything, He sees everything that's going on. I just read you that soundbite there from Sean Payton. And I'm like I said, I'm reading just about finished though Mike Westhoff's book, and he was a special teams guy, and he was the guy who had to find somewhere for these players who were high draft picks who weren't ready to play to start. He had to find a spot for them on special teams. The second round pick who has not really done anything to beat out the starter, the vet. So he's like, yeah, I was the guy stuck with those guys, But the owner, his thing was the owner wants you to play somebody whether they're ready or not because you drafted them high or you paid them a lot of money. And Belichick's philosophy is, no, I'm going to see who's the best player. Belichick has been known to put his starters on special teams, Pickles. He says, I'd favor nobody over another player. If I feel like a starter can do well on special teams, I'm going to put him on special teams. And he done it. Interesting guy. So let's not put, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is you listen to a lot of the national sports media out there right now, and everybody is saying that all this was about Brady. No, Brady, a lot of this was about Bill Belichick too. Remember, Brady didn't even start in college to his senior year at Michigan. He was beat out by a guy named Drew Henson, who went on to play baseball. So let's not put any dirt on the Bill Belichick grave. Okay. You know what? Let's go take a minute break here. I will be back here in about a minute and 19 seconds. We're going to go to a quick break here. I'll be right back, folks. Let me get to my brand here. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there, for $5 a month, 17 cents a day. You can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsScope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsScope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty, now I'm back here. Thank you, Pickles, says SportsScope. So Tom Brady's had a rough week. Tom Brady also does his podcast on Mondays with Jim Gray during the football season. So maybe he may get into the media game. I've been listening to it on and off for, let's see, I'm going to say about 3 years he does this show. And he makes the comment Monday that the 6 months that he gets into football season, I mean, he gets so locked in that he compares it to military leave. He compares it to going on military leave where you're getting deployed for 6-7 months, can't really be with the family. You're limited on your calls. You might not make a call to the family. And he got a lot of criticism and then came back later on. I think it was yesterday or today. Either way, he's made an apology about that. And plus, there are other reports that, now this is Chris Sims. This was his opinion, but this kind of spread like wildfire. Former backup quarterback. He works with NBC now, calls some games, I think, for Mike Flory on Pro Football Talk. He's saying that, you know, with this divorce that Brady's going through, that there is a chance that he should simply just retire mid-season. You're seeing that the issues with going to the party, maybe that was more than just the wedding is kind of what he was getting at, meaning some support because this divorce is so heavy on him. And Brady came out today and first he apologizes about making the military reference. Then he says, I'm definitely not retiring. And you would really hope that that is true. So he's starting to feel the pressure. And then his offensive lineman, who you could see visually on TV, kind of takes me back about 2 years. His first few weeks there in the regular season with Tampa Bay, chewing out the offensive line after they're getting whooped by that good Bear defensive line back in 2020 on that Thursday game. Remember where they got beat there on Thursday? Well, this one he saw chewing out offensive linemen after they're getting beat up in Pittsburgh this past week. But one of the linemen says, hey, man, we know the guy cares, and, you know, we're not taking it personal. He's just passionate, and he wants to win, and it's just some growing pains. Now, mind you, this is practically a whole new offensive line. I think it's 4 out of 5 guys are new except for Wirfs, right? It's like the third center, right? So they're still going through all this. And so he's wearing these guys out. He did apologize for the military thing. He did make it clear, I'm not retiring. I'm definitely not going to retire mid-season. So they play Carolina this week. They play Carolina this week, and I brought up 2020 because this could be the week that they start to turn things around. Mind you, Mike Evans, he's been injured. Then he got suspended after the Saints game, the blow up with the Saints game. Marshawn Lattimore, not to mention Chris Godwin was coming back from like an ACL or something. He started to show some flashes last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, they lost that game. But you're starting to look at guys like those two guys, Russell Gage there, no Gronk. He's still trying to get Russell Gage into this offense. Not to mention, he's trying to get that ball to these guys in a shorter amount of time because this line is not that good. On top of all that, he's got all his personal life in the news. Brady rises up during pressure. I think he's going to focus like a laser beam. I think they probably had a really good practice this week, and they're playing a team who just fired their head coach. They just traded a guy, and who was it, Pickles? Robbie Anderson, and they're trying to trade their Christian McCaffrey, their quarterback, or their leading running back there, which I told you they should have never done. So I do think with the NFC, by the way, who can you really trust in the NFC? Who can you really trust? I mean, yeah, Philadelphia, they're 6-0. Dallas is 4-2, but we know how Dallas can do. Look at Green Bay. Do you really trust the Minnesota Vikings right now? Do you really trust the Vikings, with Kirk Cousins, who can fold like a cheap suit under pressure? Look at the West right now. I mean, it's everybody's tied at 3-3 except for Arizona tonight. They're 2-4. Everybody's still into that. Do you trust the Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons? Let's go to the north there. You got Detroit, who can't stop a nosebleed, and then you've got the Bears, who have no offensive line, and they can't stop the run. They're one of the better defense. They can't stop the run. So you look at this Tampa team, and of course, I'll talk about Green Bay here in a minute. So they've got Carolina on Sunday. And then they come home. They've got Baltimore on one of those Thursday night games. That'll be close. But I think with a guy like Todd Bowles, he can put a guy like a Lamar Jackson in the box. They can win that game. Plus, it's at Tampa. It's going to be played at Tampa, and this is next Thursday, Pickles. This is one of those prime video games. I think I'll actually watch that one. And then they've got the Rams at home. They do not match up against the Rams. Then Seattle. Then they have a bye week, guys. And then it's at Cleveland, New Orleans at home, at San Francisco. It does get a little tougher through there. They could put together a little bit of a win streak. I know they're not as good on paper as they were back then, but I do see them starting to put together a turnaround starting this week against the Carolina Panthers, because he's one of those guys that locks in under pressure. Now, that being said, with this line the way it is, he could get nailed. He could get nailed, and it can go the other way. But I don't think he's going to retire. I do not think he's going. The fact that because it would look bad on his legacy if he retired mid-season. It would really make him look like he's just throwing Todd Bowles under the bus, because it didn't give Tampa Bay another chance to draft another quarterback. I don't think they believe, not whatsoever, in Kyle Trask. I'd seriously doubt that Trask is really pushing to be their franchise quarterback, okay? And, you look at all that, and then you read about all the little and plus the fact that it's already cost him that, for everything I get, I think that marriage is done. So if you gave up the wife over football, then you have nothing. You might as well get the football out of your system, since the wife is already gone no matter what happens. Now, I want the best for both worlds. I want the guy to be happy and be married. I'm just playing devil's advocate and giving you all the situations here. But it's an interesting storyline coming into this week. like I said, now this game is at Carolina, but I do think now if they lose to Carolina, the heat's going to be that much more on them. Carolina's got a good defense. Derek Brown in the middle there. Yeah, they could beat them. They could beat them. But I think they got P.J. Walker playing, and I think Tampa coming off of a two-game losing streak. No, I think they should have lost to Atlanta, right? They should have lost to Atlanta, but they didn't. And then, of course, they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers with all those injuries like that. Okay? So other teams that really need to win this weekend, okay? Let's take a look. Teams that, like my dad would say, that need a win like a hog needs slop, right? All right. Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay is they're 2 games back from Minnesota. They get totally humiliated at home last week, beat by 17 points. By the way, they were booed out of their own stadium last week, Pickles. Booed out of their own stadium. You got their opposing rookie quarterback. What audacity. And I like Sauce Gardner, but come on, man. Puts a cheese head on and is walking off the field with it. And, of course, Allen Lazard walks up and knocks it off. A week after they lost a big lead overseas to the New York Giants, a team that's wasn't expected to have a good year. Now we found out they are pretty good. You know, they're a pretty good team. So you've got Green Bay here. They're going to play at Washington Commanders, another team that needs to put together a few good wins. They're going to Tyler Heineke. Now this is going to be at home. This is going to be Washington. I think that Rodgers, remember he uses the term relax. Remember he did that a few years ago when a lot of criticism started to get amped up on him. Remember just last year when their backs were against the wall, Davante Adams, one particular game, but Davante Adams was hurt. They had injuries on their offensive line. They're on the road at Arizona on a Thursday night, a 7-0 Arizona. Everything looks really doom and gloom. Rodgers could get injured. They could start another losing streak after having a late start last year and getting humiliated in week 1, right? And almost beat in week 2, but against Detroit. But you know what? They locked in and they went on the road and they beat Arizona. Then a good Arizona team in Arizona. And if you guys remember now, they didn't win the Super Bowl or anything, but they did go on a run after that. The pressure. So there's a chance that Green Bay could go on a run this week, but they really do need this win. They need this win something awful. They're not running the ball good. He's still not getting the ball to these young receivers. He's just a tick off Rodgers with this Romeo Doubs guy. I feel like that they're going to get that right eventually, and he's going to have to get Aaron Jones the ball to more in the flat. He's saying the right thing, saying myself included. He didn't say myself included on Monday, but then later on he says Aaron Rodgers. He said now he's saying myself included, right, Pickles? He's saying myself included now. But they do need this win. They need this bad, like a hog needs slop, But I think they'll get it. I think even against that really good defensive line, I think what it is that Bakhtiari is a little slow to come back. I think he is he's getting a little bit better each week. And I think this coaching staff is seeing that. That's our left tackle. And then you got this guy, Elgin Jenkins, here on right tackle. Both of these guys have been out for a while and are just working their way back in. Once Rodgers feels like that both of his tackles are doing fine, I think he's going to have that split second extra. And I think that he's going to end up firing that ball downfield a little bit more rather than just throwing it to a guy like a Robert Tonyan there for 90 yards being your leading receiver. You don't want your leading receiver to be your tight end, not unless he's a mega star like a Travis Kelce or something. Pickle says, yeah, Yeah, Aaron Jones needs 18 touches. When they were winning and being very successful last year, Jones was getting 10, 15, 18 touches. That don't count the 7 or 8 targets he gets out of the backfield. You can bring in a Dillon off of and do short yardage. You could bring in Dillon, get more touches out of him, do the play action. He's still got a really quick release. And I'll tell you something else they did. They did a lot of cross the line of scrimmage type of plays. They've gotten away from that this year, and I don't know why. Is that just something that they did with Davante Adams? But these little across where he takes a snap and he throws it to his left, like 1 yard over the line of scrimmage to an Adams, and it's in a wide receiver screen, and it worked really well. And nobody even got close to Rodgers. They're going to go back and try some of that stuff. So I think they bounce back big this week and play well, even on the defensive side of the ball. Jaire Alexander, he's back, and he's got to pick his game back up. He's got to get back to the guy just before they played Cincinnati last year when he was hurt in that game. He's not quite played up to that level. And I don't know if his coordinator's starting to do something different. They're getting ran on. I know Rashawn Gary's a little banged up. There's one of their best defensive line. Now, I know Zadarius Smith is out. Remember, they lost him to the Minnesota Vikings last year. But I do like their draft picks they picked up. And I just expect them to play really well, even at Washington. If they don't, then we're going to start to see some more problems. They're probably going to throw more this week because Washington is pretty good against the run, but on the back end, you can toast these guys. And I think some of these young guys, your Romeo Doubs of the world, maybe even the Christian, I can't remember his name. He was actually drafted higher than Doubs. Watson, I think it's his name. That young receiver, plus the guy they picked up last year, it should be it. He's in his second year. The guy out of Clemson, Pickles, that they pick up, Amari Rodgers. I'd expect him at some point to get a big play as well. Rodgers is going to start throwing. So look. This is a big game. This is a must win for them, and I expect them to play well. But this is a game they need this game bad. Okay, teams that need the game bad. I already mentioned Tampa. Okay, that means no, never mind. And then I just now mentioned Green Bay. I mean, of course, I'm not going to forget about Denver. Speaking of the Jets, Pickles, they're playing at Denver this week. There's already been talk since after week 2 that Hackett, well, first of all, after week 1, let's go back to week 1. Not using a timeout when you've got, 2, and they're in the middle of the 50-yard line and all that clock is going off. And of course, Russell Wilson got a lot of that blame, and I did blame him because he's a veteran quarterback. Man, this guy's, 34 years old, been around for a long time. He's got to use those timeouts, plus Hackett wanting to kick these giant field goals and not use those timeouts. He's been criticized ever since. Seems like he's way over his head. Denver needs this win bad, okay? That was and I know that Wilson's got a hamstring. Their offense, not just Wilson, man, these guys look slow. They're not getting off blocks. They are playing at home. They're playing a red-hot Jets team, and the Jets just seem to be rolling. They're playing free. They're playing together. But there is a little bit of a controversy there, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Denver needs this game bad. I would try to no huddle. I would try jet sweeps option. I would try to get maybe one of your rivals, Jerry Jeudy, whoever your fastest guy is. I don't know if it's Cam Sutton now or not since he's gotten hurt, but I would try something like you want some jet sweep. You want to try some new things because really you're starting to look bad, and you still got a good defense up there. And they held this Charger team to 19 points. They still got one of the best secondaries in football. They got one of their best safeties in football, Justin Simmons, back the other day. They need to lean on that. Offensively, I would try some new things, throw in something easier, make it simpler, and maybe you have to bench Wilson because of injury. But they need this win bad because the pressure's starting to really tune up on them, particularly Wilson, because he's getting paid so much money. They're going to have to tough it up and get some offense going. They've got one of the worst offenses in the league, and they're playing a red-hot Jets team. Now, luckily, it is in Denver. But, yes, this is a big win. This is a big game. This is a must-win. Teams that need the win, okay? Here's last here, but not no, I got two more. Miami. Miami's lost 3 straight. Now, Tua's going to come back this week, okay? Tua's going to come back this week. They spent a lot of money in the offseason and a lot of draft capital on Tyreek Hill. We had the controversy about the concussion protocol, and Tua says he don't remember even leaving the Cincinnati game. And that being said, he's ready. He's passed all his concussion test and got a 65. He's ready to go, right? So that's a little Chris Rock reference there, Pickles. So, and they're playing a Pittsburgh team that's pretty banged up. This is Sunday Night Football. That secondary's got more holes than a golf course in it. You've got Jalen Waddle. You've got Tyreek Hill. They should be able to toast them. They are 3-3. They're back tied with New England for last place when they were in first place there for a while. Remember, they beat Buffalo, right? They beat Buffalo for 1 week. And, of course, they've lost. But I predicted this. But they need this win bad. They need this win bad. So this is a team. This is kind of some gambling reference. Teams that need games really bad with young coach, young staff, probably not going to fire, probably all in. I think they're going to play well, but they do need this game bad, and it is in Miami against Pittsburgh. Now, mind you, Pittsburgh beat New England or beat Tampa last week with Tom Brady. Last but not least, okay, Jacksonville. I went on and on about Jacksonville after in the off season. I talked about them after week 1. They go up and beat the. They shut out 27-0 the Indianapolis Colts in week 2. Defense is really popping. They go up to Philadelphia and blow a 14-0 lead. Now we find out Philadelphia is good. Trevor Lawrence has fumble issues in the rain game. But, they beat the Chargers. And then they pretty much they lose 3 out of 4 here. They lose to Houston at home, okay? And they lose to Indy, and they're kind of in a slump here. They've got Trayvon Walker, they've got Josh Allen, and you're looking at the Doug Peterson, and they need this win. They need this win to not look like a team that was just fool's gold for the first 2 weeks of the season. You want to call it growing pains. They want to snap out of that growing pain. You got with Trayvon Walker there, big question whether he should have been picked over Hutchinson or not. The guy out of Michigan that went second overall to Detroit. And they got a Giants team. They got a Giants team with a quarterback that is so-so, that's kind of beating people with smoke and mirrors and clever coaching. They're at home against a red-hot 5-1 Giants team, but they need this win. They're falling farther and farther behind in the South. Some people picking them to win the South after the first 2 weeks. Now Tennessee's in first place, tied with, but hold the tiebreaker over the Colts. They've lost to Houston. They need this win. They really need this win to show that they're building in the right direction. The general manager and this head coach, they want to right that wrong and say it was just young team growing pains for those losses early on. The defense hasn't been as tight the last few weeks. I want to say they gave up, 27, 30 points at Indianapolis, one of the worst offenses in the league. So this team needs this win. They really need this win. So those are teams that need the win more than others. That they're on losing streaks. They're coming back from injury. They've had high expectations. those are teams that really, especially Denver. If I had to rate one, probably Denver, and then maybe Green Bay second. But so those are my teams here. Okay, Diva wide receivers. This is another gut instinct that I had when I'm watching the draft. So I'm watching the draft, and I'm looking at Garrett Wilson. I know Garrett Wilson's. He was my favorite player out of the draft. From the players that I saw, the wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, I thought, man, he is money. But the Jets drafted, I'm thinking, man, they paid Corey Davis all this money. And then they drafted Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss in the second round. He looked great on film. They're dealing with a rookie quarterback, very young guy. Maybe they shouldn't take Garrett Wilson. Go after a lineman, go after another defensive player, an offensive line, another cornerback. You've already got a Sauce Gardner. I get that. But do you want another wide receiver? And then you've got these running backs here, Michael Carter, and then they take another running back in Breece Hall, who is playing well. But I thought to myself, this seems like, Pickles, one wide receiver too many. And sure enough, here we go, Jet fans. Today, it's reported Elijah Moore wants to be traded because he's not getting used the most in the offense. And this is what I say about wide receivers. Jim Jeffcoat, I've had him on the program. I go on with him every Sunday, the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show. And we talk about this all the time with wide receivers, that they're divas. They're a lot of them are major divas. Not all of them are divas, but most of them, more often than not, especially if they're really good, they've got some diva in them. This reminds me, okay, you're a 4-2 team. You're one of the hottest teams in the league. You've got all this talent, all this upside. You're playing in the biggest market, and you're not quite the feature of the offense because the running backs are killing it. The quarterback is just coming back from injury. He's, 2 games back from injury, and you don't want the ball. And you're mad because you're not getting the ball enough because this rookie's having a good season, and Corey Davis is the leading receiver, although hurt all the time, is the leading receiver. But this reminds me, Pickles, of Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs with Minnesota Vikings. I'm watching this game. They're down, got a lead, got the game in control in the playoffs, mind you, win the game because he didn't have a good game, Diggs. He wants out of Minnesota. So Minnesota says, okay, Buffalo Bills want to give us a pick. Let's go get a high, I think it was first or second round pick from Buffalo. They go out and get Justin Jefferson. They're happy as all get out. And then they send Diggs over to Buffalo. Now he sets all these records with Josh Allen, and he's winning. But, what other position do you complain about when you're winning? What other player, when you're winning games? Now, if you're losing, you're saying I'm not getting the ball because I'm not getting the ball is the reason why we're losing. No, that's the wide receiver position. It's a position that more often than not I would not pay big money to. We just talked about the Miami Dolphins, right? They're 3-3. What did they do without Tua, right? What did they do without Tua? You know who they had all those games? All those losses? Tyreek Hill. We look at Kansas City. They look unbeatable at times. Now, they lost to Buffalo last week, but they look unbeatable at times. They're fine without Tyreek Hill. But Elijah Moore wants out. What other position do players want out? Same thing. Philadelphia, 15 years ago, Pickles. Playoff winning team, got a guy and quarterback, campaigns behind the scenes, pulls off all the strings in Donovan McNabb. Philadelphia trades for this guy, Terrell Owens, gives him a big extension, and after one season, this guy wants another extension. Or it may have been two. But he wants another extension, and he turns on a winning team with the quarterback who campaigned to get. Who else does that than wide receivers? You know, it's unbelievable with these guys, you know? But I still say this again. I know it's an offensive-minded league. It's mainly about the quarterback. And now I'll say this, and I'll say this. I understand that people say that there's an issue with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Well, look how good or not good the Raiders are. You know? It was mainly about Rodgers. But this is a group that you don't want to have too many. You want to have too many free agent, big-name wide receivers, even though they say, oh, we're buddy-buddy. Now, at the end of the day, a lot of these guys are very selfish. They want to get theirs. You know, I say rarely pay them. For the most part, I'd let them go. I would let these guys go. And maybe sign the number 2 guy. If he's a physical receiver that blocks well, perhaps. But I'm not bringing in 2. I might pay 1. And if he wants to be the, air quote, highest paid, I'll send him on the road. And then we will work out a free agent deal, and we'll try to work out something in the draft. Even though it may cost me 2 or 3 games early in the season. Tennessee's in first place, by the way, without A.J. Brown. You can say what you want to, but they're leading their division. I know Brown's playing well on another team. And Trayvon, what's his name, Burton or whatever? Either way, he's going to be back in a few weeks. But it's just, what other position is it? You know? And I knew it. I thought, when they they brought Wilson, I said, what about Carter? I said, that's too many. There's not enough balls to go around. You know, T.O. was satisfied. Never and they're never satisfied. They want more and more money. And I thought that I would be short on time today. We're an hour and 2 minutes here. If you guys like the show, share the show. Tomorrow we'll be breaking down. Hopefully Mad New Yorker will be in. If not, I'll be working by myself. But I think Mad New Yorker is going to be in. He's here every Friday. We'll give you the top 5 games. Maybe throw in a college game or 2. Nothing like last week, though. Nothing like last week. You know, I tell you what, a game, I may not talk about this as biggest game, but then again, we might. Detroit and Dallas. Detroit's coming off a bye week with Swift coming back at Dallas. That could be the highest scoring game of the week. We shall see. I actually think, again, that Giants game will be good because I think Jacksonville is going to play very desperate this week. So, and Baltimore, I could have thrown them in there. Baltimore's got a tough game this week, I want to say. But anyways, guys, I will see you. Carlos has just sent me a text. He says, we doing a show tomorrow. Send me what you got. See, the guy knew I was thinking about it. Okay? Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time here on Sports Scope.